Welcome to Athenaze Chapter 2 Beta, in which we talk about accents on nouns and verbs. This is the second video for Chapter 2 Beta. First, I want to teach you some fancy terminology. It'll help us when talking about accents down the road. So each syllable has a name. The last syllable is called the ultima, from the Latin word meaning last. So in our sample word ho anthropos, pos, the last syllable, is the ultima. The second to last syllable is called the penult. It's from the Latin almost, pina, ultima, last. And our sample word anthropos, throw, is the penult. The third to last syllable is called the antepenult, from the Latin before, the almost, last. In ho anthropos, an is the antepenult. All Greek accents fall on one of the last three syllables. You will never find an accent on the fourth to last or fifth to last syllable. So let's talk about noun accents. This also applies to adjectives. We say that noun accents are persistent, which means you learn where the accent is and what kind of accent it is in the nominative case, and then it stays there in the same place, the same kind of accent, unless one of the following rules forces it to change. So rule number 1, if the nominative has an acute accent on the last syllable, i.e. the ultima, then it will change to a circumflex in the genitive and dative. So for our sample noun ho agros, the genitive is tu agru. You notice the acute has changed to a circumflex. And the dative to agro, the acute has also changed to a circumflex, because those last syllables are long. But in ton agron, the last syllable is short, which means the accent remains acute, just as you saw in the nominative case. So, ho agros, ton agron, but tu agru and to agro. Next rule, which we will learn formally in Chapter 3 Beta, is that if the nominative has an acute accent on the third to last syllable, i.e. the antepenult, then the acute will move to the second to last syllable, i.e. the penult. And that's going to happen in the genitive and the dative. So in our sample noun, ho anthropos, you'll notice that it has an acute accent on the antepenult. It changes to tu anthropou in the genitive. Likewise, to anthropo in the dative, but then back to ton anthropon in the accusative. There are a few more noun rules that we will also learn in Chapter 3 Beta. So, for example, if the nominative has a circumflex on the second to last syllable, i.e. the penult, it will change to an acute on the genitive and dative. So, ho oikos becomes tu oiku in the genitive, and to oiko in the dative, but then back to ton oikon in the accusative. Let's take a moment now to talk about verb accents. So when noun accents were persistent, we say that verb accents are recessive, which means you start with a blank verb with no accents on it, you start at the end of the word, and you move as far forwards towards the beginning of the verb as the following rules allow. So here's the simplified version, and then we get into the details of the weeds in the next slide. So rule number 1, if the last syllable, the ultima, is long, then you put an acute accent on the second to last syllable, the penult. So in our sample verb badizdo, you'll notice the last syllable is long, which means the acute goes on the penult, and you get badizdo. Now it turns out the second singular and the third singular all have long last syllables. So first singular, second singular, and third singular are all going to have the accent on the same place. Badizdo, badizdes, badizde. All have a long ultima and therefore get an acute on the penult. Long ultima, acute on the penult. Second rule is if the last syllable, i.e. the ultima, is short, then the accent goes on the third to last syllable, i.e. the antepenult. So in badizde, the last syllable is short, so we put the acute on the third to last syllable, the antepenult. Badizde. In elaune, the last syllable is short, so we put the acute on the antepenult. elaune. In the command filet, the last syllable is short. You apply accent rules before you do the contraction. So we put the acute on the antepenult, we get filet, and then we do the contraction and we get filet. So now, let's see what happens if you have a last syllable that is short, but you don't have 3 syllables. So, if the last syllable is short, and the verb is only 2 syllables long, then you put an accent on the penult. The question is that going to mean acute or a circumflex? So, the sub-rules are, if the penult is long, then you put a circumflex on it. So in our sample command aire, we get last syllable short. We only have 2 syllables, so we can't go to the antepenult. We have to go to the penult. The penult is long, so it gets a circumflex. Aire. Same with speude. Last syllable short. There is no third to last syllable. Accent goes on the second to last syllable. It's long, circumflex, speude. In contrast, if the penult is short, then it gets an acute. So sample command lege, last syllable is short. Word does not have an antepenult, so the accent goes on the penult. It's short, it gets an acute. Lege. In the sample command faire, same thing. Last syllable is short. There is no third to last syllable. Accent goes on the second to last. It's short, it gets an acute. Faire. That's it for now. See you next time.